Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I'm up here in the hot tent up on top of the hill today, doing a little bit of mobile radio stuff. I've got the antenna coming right through the top of this tent from my vehicle, so I've already got the mobility of that antenna on my truck with that shark stick. It's set up on 20 meters right now. I actually have the front door to this tent open because it's so dang hot in here with this stove burning. I can tell you that it's probably 85 in here. The door just swung shut from the wind. But let me get things set up. We'll try to make a couple calls, and we might even try some JS8 while we're in here. But we just thought we'd spend the night out here in the hot tent and see how she goes, see what kind of mobile radio stuff we could do on QRP at 10 watts. We do have the jacker here to run this external battery so that we can run 10 watts out of here. JS8 will run that. You know, we'll get way out there with JS8 if we can get it set up on 10 watts, but we might even be able to make some contacts in here on 10 watts just with that shark stick on top of my truck. So stay with me, guys.
Sunny with 18 degrees at Lancaster, light snow, and 17 degrees, and at Newark, cloudy, and 19 degrees at Cleveland, snow flurries, and 21 degrees at Cincinnati, cloudy, and 15 degrees at Pittsburgh.
Okay, I thought I'd give you guys a quick walk around today out here at the hot tent. It's a Russian Bear hot tent. Got the wood stove in there. You can see I got the door open right now because it's so freaking warm in there. You can't stand to be in there. You got that stove stoked up at all. I'm running some QRP radio in there with my ICOM 705, and I'm running the antenna right off the top of my Jeep. I've got a ham stick 20 meter tuned antenna up there, and I can just pull up beside the tent, run that thing right into the tent through a window, and power that thing off the jackery if I want to. Got an external battery obviously as well. Turn that down just a little bit. Pretty good signal coming in there from a net right now. But you can see it's a pretty easy setup. Folding table in here, stove, water keg, chair, bunk. Pretty easy stuff. Nothing to it, but you've got a couple of windows here that can open all the way up. And I've got one of them opened up just enough to get an antenna wire through there. And I can run an antenna wire through the bottom and run an antenna externally outside here somewhere. I want to set up an antenna out here, some kind of a in-fed half wave or a dipole or something like that. But it's really easy just to pull up next to the tent with this Jeep. It's got a tuned 20 meter antenna on it. I've also got a tuned 40 meter. I can change that out real quick if I want to change frequencies. But if I want to operate on all frequencies, I need to set up an antenna out here. A bigger antenna of some sort. And I've got plenty of them I could do that with. I just wanted to see how it would work out today. Spend a little time in the hot tent today and have a good time playing radio. Well, I had to open the door to the hot tent, boys. And it's freaking driving me out of here. Still no luck on JS8 call. Made a couple contacts today on 20 meters. Talked to a couple different nets. I'll just sit here and see what happens for a while. I'll tell you, I got this new IceCo lantern right here. Rechargeable lantern. And it's got a couple different settings on it for different light modes. Also a brick built into it so you can charge your phone. Pretty nice little light, to be honest with you. I really like it. So got it hanging in the hot tent here to give me some light. Well, the band's pretty dead right now. I'm not having a lot of luck on JS8 call, but I will tell you, you can see t-shirt, right? It's 16 degrees outside right now, and I'm sitting here in the t-shirt working this radio. I don't need a thermometer to tell you how warm that is. I've stripped down to everything but a t-shirt, and I've closed the baffling down on this stove now so that it just burns itself down and lets it go. I'm just going to go ahead and let her burn down now, and it's not going to be long for me to hit the rack. If I don't get a CQ going here on JS8 pretty quick, I'm just going to give it up for tonight and try again tomorrow. Looks like the 20 meter band's fairly dead right now compared to what it was today when all the networks were running. Thought I'd give you guys a quick run this morning. See, I've got the inner doors open and the outer door is shut. There's plenty of heat coming off this stove this morning to keep me warm in here. Keep the Liberty Lifesaver water jug close to the stove so it doesn't freeze up. And then I've got some spare wood down there, piece of pipe. Obviously, stove runs straight out of the top of that tent. And there's a nice shielding back there on the back of the tent or the stove pipe. And then there's a piece that goes on the bottom, lays on the ground there. Guys, I thought I would kind of go over my mobile setup here for ham radio. Kind of the purpose I came out to this hot tent was to practice JS8 call. And it's a new facet of ham radio for me. It's basically a way to send text messages through radio with no need for the internet. If you can't figure out the importance of that or the uses for that, then think about it for a little while and you will. But at any rate, it also allows you to not be near the radio while you're getting messages and things like that and come back to them, answer them later. But I want to give a shout out to a couple guys that turned this radio back on. It powered off by itself there, powered down, black screen out. A couple shout outs real quick to a couple guys. First of all, Josh Noss at Ham Radio Crash Course walked me through all of this, and it took a long time to get this right. I tried to run it through Mac. I'm a Mac guy myself. It just seems to want to run better through Windows 10. I needed a shielded USB cable. That was giving me problems as well. But a couple of $100 on a gateway computer at Walmart that will run Windows 10 is all you need. It doesn't need anything fancy. Something small and nimble. The other shout out I wanted to give to was to my buddy over in Finland. And his channel is OH8STN Ham Radio. That's also his Instagram and his call sign for ham radio, but he does a lot of this mobile stuff, and he uses a Microsoft Surface, which is about $450, depending on where you buy it. And I may go that route one of these days because it's a little smaller. If you really wanted to go mobile, but this is only 11.5-inch screen. So aside from the fact that it's got hinged parts and things like that, it's not a really robust outdoor computer. I do have a pretty heavy duty padded sleeve for this thing to run around in. And then the radio goes in my backpack. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But this JS8 call is really why I came out here to mess around today. And I am getting some responses back, signal reports back from my heartbeats. I actually talked to Josh in California. He informed me that I was being heard all the way down to Cuba. And this is, bear in mind, with, at that point, 5 watts of output on a ham stick antenna. Now, I have changed my antenna over to the hot tent antenna now, which is a Wolf River Coils Take It Along antenna. I've got it semi-permanently set up outside the hot tent, and then I have the ham stick on the truck. And then I also have an Infed Halfwave by MCOM that I carry in my radio pack, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that I can just throw up in a tree, get that thing resonant with a tuner, and rock and roll. In 20 meters, I've got to add some length to it to get it set up on 40, but it's resonant on 20 as is. So those are the 3 antenna options I use most of the time. Then I've got a Buddy Pole Pro that I can use as well. But the 3 that I'm using mainly right now, the 3 antennas that I mainly use for mobile right now is the MCOM 3 Infed Halfwave for truly mobile backpacking. Then I have a Shark stick tuned to 20 meters on my Jeep, so I can talk out of my Jeep or around my Jeep anywhere I want to with that. And I have a 40 meter tuned stick for that as well, and behind my seat that I can throw up on there to talk on 40 meters. And then out here at the hot tent, I've semi-permanently set up, like I said, a Wolf River Coils Take It Along, and it is resonant, or can be set up to be resonant on multiple bands across the radio. So that's kind of my setup as far as antennas go, just so I know people ask me that a lot. Am I fond of this 705, and do I think it was worth the money? I absolutely more than think it's worth the money. It is pricey. It's not what people would call common man. It's not a $35 Bofang by any stretch of the imagination, but it will talk on all the bands, UHF, VHF, HF. It has FM. It will listen to weather stations. It can be used on 2 meters and 70 centimeters as well. It covers all of the other ham bands, like I said. So it is a very good radio. It's got a system set up in it for FT8 call already. It's basically a one-touch plug and play as far as that goes. As far as the setup of the radio goes, setting up the program on the computer is a little bit more time consuming, but I got through that today with Josh. And then this makes a very good, easy mobile system because this this 705 weighs almost nothing, and it can power itself with its own battery pack up to 5 watts, or I can plug it into the Jackery I've got down below this table, which is what I'm running the laptop power off of as well, a Jackery 500 that I carry in my Jeep, and I can power this up to 10 watts, keep the battery good and charged, run the laptop, all that kind of stuff, charge it with a solar panel out in the sun to keep power to it, and it makes it really good at mobile power unit, not backpack mobile, but mobile in a vehicle, some type of conveyance. And so I just want to kind of walk through that with you today because it's real simple. I'm going to walk you through the backpack that I carry the radio in as far as backpacking to radio, and with the small MCOM3 antenna that we talked about a minute ago. And we'll walk through that as well, but I want to show you some of this JS8 call kind of up close for a minute just so you know what I'm talking about. Stay with me. Okay, so when you look at this JS8 call screen, and I'm no expert on this thing, so I'm not even going to try and explain it all to you, all right? But this side is basically signals that I'm hearing, things that are coming into my radio from wherever. You can look up those call signs to see where they're coming from. It's very easy. The frequency that I'm operating on right now in 20 meters, my call sign, time, date, all that good stuff. Message string here, back and forth with people and things like that. These are people who have sent me messages that are starred. The other ones are call signs that I've heard on my radio, and what their signal report was, basically signal to noise ratio and things like that. And then you've got a screen down here, a waterfall, that shows where the activity's at on the band. You can see those lines of activity on the band. There is a contest going on right now on RTTY, of course, across this band, so this lower end here on the data portion of the band, so it's pretty crowded right now, but there's still some JS8 stuff coming through. So it is working. I'm talking to people, I'm hearing people. Josh told me today that I reached a guy in Cuba. I definitely talked to him in California, and I'm in Ohio. So even with 5 watts of power, this thing is definitely getting out there. And that was with the ham stick. I just hooked up to the larger Wolf River coil antenna a little while ago. We'll see how that goes here in a little bit. Simple lantern on the table, note taking, band plan. Pretty simple setup. All right, there sits that Jackery down there on a food box under the table, and it's at 49%. And that thing's been running a computer and this radio for 2 days solid. So that thing is really efficient when it comes to running low power devices like that. I thought we'd kind of go over what I call my radio ruck, which is a GoRuck bullet pack. This is the cover for my laptop computer, and this is where my radio sits inside here. We'll put that in there in a few minutes, and the mic sits on top of that. I had a Kydex shelf made to fit down in the ruck plate holder of this ruck that radio can bolt into and set in. For when you're carrying it, you can operate it right out of the pack that way and just run the cords up through the hydration bladder slot for antennas and things like that, or the mic, so you can operate with the radio in the ruck if you want to. So up in this top pouch, really I just keep all the cables in there. Any cables I need for my tuner, cables that I need like USB cables, and then the cables for running the radio off a battery are all kept in there. I'll unzip this all the way down for a minute. I've got a spare coax cable in here. Let's just open this thing up. I've got 2 spare coax cables in here, one thin one and one heavier one. And then I've got my MCOM3 antenna. This antenna is an end-fed half wave for 20 meters. That's the entire antenna. Basically, all you gotta do is hoist this thing up into a tree on a sloper. Plug your BNC connector into that bad boy if you're using this thin stuff right here. And that is your antenna system. So it's really portable, really small, and easy to use. So this antenna is set up to be resonant on 20 meters with no tuner needed. I've done that ahead of time. If I add another piece of antenna wire to this with a banana clip that I could clip it onto to give myself a longer length, I could make it resonant on 20 and 40 meters on the same antenna. I keep that antenna in this pouch along with the dedicated cable and then one spare coax cable as well. That's a little heavier duty. This ruck can't just be a radio ruck. It has to be able to have some survival type items in it as well. So I do keep an antenna Rig Expert Stick Pro tuner in here in case I'm tuning up an antenna, in case I have to makeshift something, or if I'm trying to tune in another antenna. And then I carry a spare battery that's fully charged for the 705. I have my tuner, and all the cables are in here for it, and it runs on two AA batteries, and this will tune an antenna that's not resonant. So if I'm tuning up a homemade antenna or something like that, or another antenna that I can't get to tune resonant to a certain frequency, I can use this tuner. I have a bag of connectors here and dummy plugs and things like that for the radio. Shelter and stakes. Water bottle. This bag has a larger 20 and 40 meter antenna in it that I set up in an inverted V. I may end up taking this antenna out of this bag, but it just gives me a secondary backup to that small MCOM 3 for right now that I can carry with me fairly easily. And it all fits in one bag with the throw rope and the throwing device. And that's pretty much everything but the radio and the way it sits in here. It's a pretty simple setup. Of course, I've got my knife, my cigarette lighter, and things like that on me. But I've got shelter and water in here. I do have some cordage in this bag as well. That's that throw line. So I do have some cordage with me as well. I've got those 5 C's covered pretty easy within this bag for drop dead emergency. And then again, like I said, the radio goes right here in the top, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So right in the front of this ruck, I carry a band plan, just a quick reference manual for the 705 and a notebook. Those just go right here in the front like that, and then a ballpoint pen and a spare cigarette lighter always go in this pouch for emergencies as well. You can see we got the stove rocking and rolling inside here, this Russian Bear tent, while we're doing this JS8 calling. What I would tell you guys is, if I had one complaint about this stove, because it really does work well, it's efficient, and it heats this place up like crazy. The fact that they put the stove pipe in the front of the stove instead of the back makes that thing a complete pain in the ass to try to cook on, because that stove pipe invariably is in your way. That's the only complaint I've got about it. If that stove pipe was in the back of the stove, it would be a better design for cooking on top of the stove, although it was probably never meant for that. Kilo Echo 8 Sierra Papa Sierra, got you 5'9" in Southeast Ohio.
KE8 SPS QSL 5'9" in Ohio. You're 5'7" in Texas. We're in Kilo 66 to about 40 miles west of Houston, running 100 watts quarter wave vertical putty poles stacked on top. And KE8 SPS. Back to you, KE5X.
Roger that. I'm running a Wolf River coil out of a hot tent on top of the hill, QRP on a 705. Got a good signal, man. 73s. Thank you.
Oh, cool. The QRP sounds good. You're 100% copy here. This is KE5XV QRZ.
All right, got him easy in Texas. Nothing to it. Coming in loud and clear. Wolf River coils. That antenna's hot for sure. Working well. I'm gonna go ahead and pack the rest of this dude down. Now, I've spent a couple days on and off up here at the hot tent. I had to run out, grab a couple things, get a different laptop so I could run Windows on JS8 call. I had to get a shielded USB cable so I could cut down on my noise, RF, things like that. But it's been a good couple days up here, and I just hit a Parks on the Air real quick to finish things up. I like doing Parks on the Air hunting, especially because it allows me to tell where I'm getting out to. That guy was in Texas. He said I was coming in loud and clear. Now it's again with that Wolf River coils, take it along, that I've got set up now kind of semi-permanent outside the hot tent. The first day I was using my ham stick on top of my Jeep. It switched over today to the Wolf River coils, take it along, and both of them seem to work really, really well. But that take it along, I'm going to stake it down a little bit better in these high winds. Did blow over on me once. Had to go out and pick it up. I'm going to stake it down a little bit more so that it can't blow over, and at least drop the mast on it, drop the extendable mast on it when I'm not using it. But I think it's going to be a great permanent addition to the hot tent up here. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, just trying to figure out ways to use this mobile radio in different locations in different ways. I think communication is an important part of self-reliance, and ham radio is a big interest to me now, so you'll probably see more of it. All right, so in the end, this whole radio rack sits right here on the top of this shelf, and there's a little bit of space in the top there to drop the mic in and the mic cable, just like that. Tuck it all inside. Ready to rock and roll. Nothing to it. So if you didn't want to use JS8 call, you could get along fine with just this setup right here. Backpacking mobile, and do parks on the air, communicate with friends, do whatever you want to do. If you're going to do JS8 call, you've got to carry, obviously, the laptop on top of that. Other than that, it's a very simple system. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you joining for this video today out here at the Hot Tent, and I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video, guys, as soon as I can. Thanks.